Welcome to RITSEC. Yay!
7 minutes.
Announcements. We have just really one big announcement. We will be ending a little bit early today due to conference room renovations. So we'll be ending deadline 3:20. If you can stay and help us reorganize the tables so that way the people who come in don't have to do that themselves, it would be great. Thank you. Join the Discord. I hope most of you are in the Discord. If not, join it. Please, that's how you get our updates. Please sign in. The sign-in should be dropped. You can go into the sign-in area and sign in to the general meeting. I dropped it at 12:03, so boom. Check the calendar. Check the calendar. Check the calendar. Check the calendar. I don't know where it's supposed to go. Okay. Check the calendar. We had mic checks. Check the calendar. It's great. You get to know where all the fun interest groups are. Super cool. Super fun. We have an RITSEC mailing list. Sign up for it. Get our newsletters. Britt sends them out. It's amazing. You get to learn all the information and important dates, and you should read them because they're really fun and cool. Mentorship groups. Chase wants to stand up and talk about this.
Oh, yeah. So if you check in the announcements for RITSEC, I just sent the announcement out. So you can scan this QR code, you can fill out the form, apply to be a mentee. Oh my gosh, such a great opportunity. There's a little bit more information about it in the announcement. So check there. And what's being a mentee? Being a mentee is like being a part of one of the various groups that are listed on the form, where you you go with about once a week with your group of mentees and your mentor, and you learn about various topics like rubber duckies, cyber defense, war driving, many other things. It's a great opportunity to learn more about RITSEC, create connections, little personal project stuff, and then you get to do a presentation at the end. So exciting! So yeah, check out the announcement, and we will.
Thank you. RITSEC feedback. Go to feedback.ritsec.com. Tell us how we're doing. We like hearing your opinions. That's great.
Unless they're mean.
What?
Unless they're mean.
Unless they're mean. Actually, mean ones can be funny. We want those. Clap it up for the sponsors. Follow us on social media. Our social media head does a really great job of posting pictures and making sure that everybody knows what's going on and when our interest groups are and fun events that we have. So you should follow us and give them support and support the club. And now we have this week's topic, Introduction to Linux, given by Ash Brown. You can come up and now talk. The meander. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, first off, who am I? My name is Ash. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a computer science major, second year. Miata fanatic. I use Arch and Gentoo, which was not a mistake. Honda Gang and a hat enthusiast. Alright, first we're going to go over some background for Linux. First off, what is Linux? Linux usually refers to the operating system kernel, not really the operating system itself. And the kernel is the program that manages interactions between the software and the hardware. The cool thing about Linux is that it's open source and it's customizable. So if Linux is the kernel, then what is the actual operating system? Or what is the operating system wrapped around the kernel? Usually we refer to those as distributions. So here's a couple of them listed here. Ubuntu is like your standard beginner distribution. Ubuntu is based off of Debian. There's also Fedora. I know people who like that. That comes from Red Hat, if I remember correctly. And then there's Kali. That's like the security-focused distro. Usually use that for like CTFs or like pen testing or whatever. There's Arch, which is really involved install process, but you learn a lot along the way. And then there's Gentoo, which is also a really involved install process, but you get to learn silly little kernel things because you have to compile the kernel yourselves. Alright, first off we've got the shell, which is a text interface that is used to control your operating system. A couple of different shells are, you've got bash, you've got sh, which bash comes from, and then there's zsh, a lot of people like to use that. There's fish, which is a little bit more intuitive sometimes. Alright, on to files in the file system. So when you're in the shell, there's a couple of different there's a lot of different commands that you can use to move around and explore all your files. So cd is used to change directories. So you type in cd and then whatever the name of the directory is that you want to go to, and it takes you there. ls lists all the files in the current directory, so you can see what you've got in that folder. ls type A shows you hidden files, and ls type L shows you extra information about your files. It can show you what permissions a file has, who owns the file. I think it can also show you like modification dates. And then cat prints out the contents of the file. You use it by typing in cat and then the file name that you want to look at. You can also use echo, but I wouldn't. You gotta do echo like $, parentheses, and then like an arrow. It's really involved. It's just easier to use cat. And then you can also use less, which is really cool because you can scroll through with arrow keys if your shell doesn't have scrolling. PWD prints the absolute file path of your directory, so you know exactly where you are on your system. And then file gives you more details about a file, and you just do file and then whatever file that you want to look at. Alright, a little bit more about the file system. We've got relative file paths, which change based on where you are in the system, and then we've got absolute file paths, which stay the same no matter where you are. So if you want to go up one directory to the parent directory, then you do cd ... and then your home directory is going to be cd tilde, and then your current directory is just dot, and then your previous directory is just a minus sign. Some absolute file paths are listed here. A couple of them are missing, like /root, that's going to be the root's home folder. But everything is under the root directory, so that one /. Some important file paths that are in here is /bin. That's going to be where most of your programs are installed. And /boot, that's that your kernel image, your boot files. /etc holds a lot of really important files for system configuration, also a couple of other things. /home holds all your home directories, and that's everything really important. Alright, now to edit files, you can use touch to create a new file. So if you do touch and then whatever file name that you want that file to have, then that'll create a new empty file. mv moves a file to a given directory. So you do mv, the file name that you want to move, and then the directory that you want to move it to. You can also use this to rename files. Copy, you use that like move, it copies a file to a given directory. rm deletes a file, and then mkdir makes a new folder or directory. Alright, text editors. These can be used to create and edit files. The way you use it is you just do the command for the text editor and then you do the file name. Some common text editors are Vim or Nano, Nano and Micro, Gedit, Emacs. Vi or Vim and Nano
will usually be installed on the system, so if you know how to use another one of those, then you'll be good to go. Vim and Emacs have a pretty high learning curve, but Nano is like pretty easy to use. You can just like open it up and then you'll be okay. Echo can also be used to write to a file. We'll go over those little arrows in the next slide. All right. To input to a command, like if you've got like a file with a bunch of stuff in it and you want to put that in a command, then you use these left pointing arrows. And generally 2 arrows will append and then 1 arrow will overwrite. And then if you want to take output from a command and put it into a file, then you use the right pointing arrows. And then this vertical bar, that's type, and you use that to redirect output from one command to input into another command. And that's really helpful for like grep. Grep uses regex, regular expressions, to find text in files. Find is kind of like grep, and it uses regex to find files. It can also be used to find directories. And then which locates the absolute path of any binary that you type in. So grep is really helpful if you're like looking through log files for whatever reason. And then find is really helpful if you're like looking for a specific named file, like in the system. I usually use find with CTS if I'm looking for a flag.txt. Yeah. All right. Moving on, we've got some file permissions. Every file has permissions that control who can read, write, and or execute that file. If a file has a permission RWX, RX, and R, then that means the owner can read, write, and execute. The owner's primary group can read and execute. We'll go over groups in a little bit. And then everyone else can only read that file. File permissions can also be represented as a 3-digit number. So RWX RXR is 754. And this is a little cheat sheet for what all those numbers mean, because I would not remember that. Alright, now to change file permissions, you can use chmod, and you just do chmod. The mode, you can use those numbers from before, or you can use the RWX format, and then the file name that you want to change the permissions of. And then to change the file owner, you use it like chmod, but instead of chmod, you do chmod. And then you do the user that you want the owner to be, and then the file name. And then for group, you use it like chown, but you type in group instead of chmod. Alright, now moving on to users. First off, what are users and what are groups? Users can be found in NetSuite password. This top one right here, that's an example of an NetSuite password. It's got all the usernames in the first column. And there's a couple of different things that you can see in NetSuite password. You can see what shell users are using. That's going to be the last column. So you see a lot of bin bashes in there. It also shows you where the home file is. So like I said earlier, it's going to be /root. Your regular users are usually going to be /home /the username. And then what else? There's also the user ID. Root's going to be 0, and then your regular users are going to be like 1,000 plus. Different softwares can also have different users. You see like Mail has a user, SQL has a user, so on and so forth. Groups can be found in Etsy Group. The second image is an example of Etsy Group. It's got the name of the group in the first column, and then it's got the group ID in the third column, and then it's got who's in that group in the last column. And these are usually used to organize user permissions. A really important one that you'll see a lot of time is the wheel group. That's usually used to allow who gets to use sudo. So it depends on how you set up your sudo or style, but whoever's in the root group can use sudo. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. So some commands that are good to know: run prints out your username. Groups prints out whatever groups you're in. ID prints out the UID and the GID. So your user ID and your group ID. And then SU is used to switch user. So if you do SU and then whatever username, then you can type in the password for that user if it has one, and switch to that user. If you do SU nothing, then that'll switch users to root. And then if you know the root password, then you're on root. If you don't want to use SU every time you're trying to install a package or do something with elevated permissions, then you can use sudo, which is used to elevate a user's root privileges temporarily. So you do sudo and then whatever you want to do with elevator permissions, and then you type in your password, and then if you're allowed to do that, then it'll execute that command for you. Otherwise, it'll tell you no, and you'll be like, this will be recorded. Like that one. Alright, moving on to system configuration. So there's a bunch of different important configuration files. These can all be found in Etsy.
I'm gonna wait a second, Ash.
Okay.
From that.
Real.
There's a good time to talk about shadow.
Etsy shadow?
You get it?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm in my villain era
Thank you,
right
Lynn.
Thank you, man.
now. Okay, cool. Now we've got some atmosphere. Dash RC, you can find that in like your home directory, but it can also be found in your Etsy directory. And that's used to change your shell. We'll go over that a little bit in a minute. Sudoers, that's what I was talking about earlier. That's your sudo config file. That can change when you're allowed to use sudo, who can use sudo, so on and so forth. SSHD config, that's your SSH config file. You can also find that in your home directory, but it's also found in Etsy. We'll go over SSH in a little bit. pam.d, those are your authentication config files. So that's basically like password management kind of. You can use those to either. Okay, so there's pam allow and there's pam deny, and pam allow basically makes it to where you don't need a password at all, and then pam deny just like denies you. That's not super important for beginners, but it's still good to know. Cron tab, that's your cron tab config file. Cron tab list, yeah. You can see a bunch of different cron tabs that are happening on your system, and then you can write some of your own. FS tab, that's your file system mount config file. That's what your Google looks at to figure out how to mount certain things and in what place to mount them. Still, that's a directory that holds your default config files. You can sometimes find bash RC in there, like a default bash RC, for users who haven't created a bash RC. There's other ones in there too, but yeah. And then Etsy Shadow, that holds your user password captures. That's a really important one. Don't let people have access to that when they don't need it. Alright, so going back to bash RC for a minute. These are some of the things that you can change in bash RC. You've got some aliases. Really common one is aliasing LA to ls-a, so you don't have to type that every time you want to see all your files. So every time you type in LA, then it'll do ls-a. You've got your path. So if you've got scripts that you've created, but you don't want to put them in your /bin file, then you can modify your path to a different directory where you're storing all your scripts. And then if you just type the name of that script, then it'll run it. And then environment variables, you can change environment variables. Some are at home. I think locale is also an environment variable. There's a bunch of them. But you can create your own by just typing in a variable name and then whatever value that you want to use for that. And then for your prompts, you can customize that here too. One that I usually see, or one that I personally use, is this one here. Yeah. If you just type in what's after the equal sign, then that'll change your font to look like that. All right. We're going to go over package managers briefly because, yeah. Package managers are used to download extra software onto your system. Arch and Arch-based distributions use Pacman. Debian-based distributions use APG, if I remember correctly. And then I think Red Hat uses Yum, and then Gentoo uses emerge. You can look up these package managers to see exactly how to use them, because they differ quite a bit. All right, moving on to man pages. These are super helpful. I was referencing these at 2 a.m. last night. These can be used to find information on any commands on your system. And to use it, you just do man and then whatever command you want to look at. You can also use text.help on those commands to get like a shorter explanation of like what the command does and the various like flags that it has. This one on the left, that's help, and then this one on the right is that's a full man page. So you don't even need to use the Google to look at what you're doing. All right. Other things that I haven't covered quite yet. We've got some processes. I'm going to go over this briefly. Kill can send a kill signal to any process if something has frozen or is being stubborn, or if you just want to be aggressive. PS shows what processes are running. But if you want to see like all your processes being updated, then you can use top. And it's described as kind of like a task manager, but you can look at whatever's going on your system, and you can also like send kill signals from top. It's interactive. It's got a bunch of cool options that I have not used. All right. SSH and girl. Told you we would get to SSH. SSH stands for Secure Shell Protocol, and it allows you to remotely access another system shell. It's pretty easy to use once you've got it set up. You just do SSH the username and then at the IP address that you want to connect to. So I don't know if any of y'all are in mobs, but you do SSH user at lados.cs.rit.edu, and you can code on the CS machine. Curl allows you to interact with URLs from the terminal. You can actually send post requests in Curl, which I did not cover, but you can find that in the Curl man page. To use it, you just do curl and then the URL that you want to look at. So, for example, curl mossmiata.com, and then it'll show you mossmiata.com in all of its JavaScript glory. Curl.o or curl.o allows you to download the output to a file, which can be helpful sometimes. All right, there's a couple of different ways you can look at your history. History is a command that you can use to scroll through your shell's history, and then bash history is a file, usually in your home directory, that shows you all the commands that we used, unless if someone modified it. Dmessage is used to track kernel messages. If you've got hardware issues, which you probably will, then you can look at dmessage to see what might be going on. General CTL has got system D logs. I did not cover system D, but that can be helpful if something's going on. var/log is a directory containing a bunch of other log files that you can look through and explore. Alright, some of the things that I did not cover in this presentation. There's systemd, which is an init system. There's other alternatives, like OpenRC. Gentoo uses OpenRC. Pretty much everyone else uses systemd. And then there's runner, which I can't remember what that one is. There's X and Wayland. Those are display services. X is the common one. Wayland is the cooler one. There's desktop environments and window managers. The desktop environment is going to be how the GUI that you interact with on your system. And then there's also networking, which I did not cover. If you are trying to connect to the internet at RIT, it is kind of a pain on us. But, yeah. Some resources that I like looking at to learn more is the Arch or the Gentoo or the Red Hat wiki. Arch one is really nice, except it can be a little bit confusing sometimes, so then I go to Gentoo because it's phrased in a different way. Red Hat is really cool I usually use that for security things, like writing down modules. And then there's Stack Exchange. That one's really helpful if you just want a quick answer. Like, how do I see hidden files on Linux? And I'll tell you. And that is everything that I've got for now. Anyone got any questions? I use Gentoo on that laptop, and I use Arch.
Why do you use that?
Okay, so I actually started using Linux halfway through first semester last year, and I wanted to learn a bunch, and so I just did a deep dive and installed Arch. The best way to learn about Linux is to just install a complicated distro, so that way you have to learn everything the hard way. And then I installed Gentoo because I got bored of Arch and wanted to learn about the kernel. Oh, my bad.
So like why I use Windows. What's like the benefits of using Linux in your opinion?
In my opinion, I like using Linux because I can change. Oh, my bad.
I forgot to.
Okay, so Anthony asked, I use Windows. What is the benefit of using Linux over Windows, in my opinion? In my opinion, I like Linux because it's a lot more customizable than Windows. Also, I get to learn cool things about how computers work that I don't really see on Windows. Granted, you can do this on Windows too, but I think it's a little bit easier on Linux because a lot of things aren't done for you, so you have to do them yourself. And
How could your knowledge be used offensively?
So Penny asked, how can your knowledge be used offensively? The more you learn about Linux, the easier you can break it. I would not be able to write a fan module if I wasn't running Linux and wasn't able to test it on my own system. Not a good idea. Don't do that. So basically, just the more you learn about it, and also in a defensive manner. Usually, you've got Linux for competitions. So if you're familiar with Linux before the competition, then it makes it a lot easier on yourself when your team is breaking in and messing with other stuff. Okay, I'm gonna do Casey first.
What's your favorite project that you've done for
Okay, so Casey asked, what is my favorite project that I've done with I gotta be so real with you. My favorite project was just getting Gen 2 to work on my machine. That was way more complicated than it should have been. NVMe drives are not standard in the kernel, or standard options in the kernel, so I had to enable that myself. I had to enable a lot of things myself, and I didn't do it right the first dozen times. So when I finally booted that up and I got it to work, that was my favorite project. All right, and then Ken.
Hypothetically speaking, could you and or would you get the Miata to run a flavor hunt?
Okay, Kenny asked hypothetically, if I could, would I get the Miata to run a flavor of Linux?
Good job.
He said technically it does. Yes, I would. Funny story, I've actually been thinking about getting a standalone ECU, even though I haven't done any power mods to run Miata yet, because I want to mess around with my car's computer. So I would, absolutely.
All right.
I don't know your name.
My name is Brian. Do you have access to the slideshow?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
These slides will be posted on the website along with this is recorded and will be posted on the YouTubes. So you can look at it there once it's edited.
Then will slides be done after this to help with that?
Anthony asked, what was the question? I couldn't hear you.
Will the slides be posted to help with demos?
The slides will hopefully be posted on the website to help with demos.
No, like now.
Like now? I don't think they're now.
Okay, what's up?
What is that?
RITSec.club. Right? Casey, what's the website again?
RITSec.club.
You don't know the
Okay, yeah, I said that. Okay, the website is RITSec.club. Alright, was there a question over here?
How much time does it take to
Like this. Yeah.
Oh boy. So I don't have a whole lot of packages on my system in the first place, but it takes like hours, which is a real shock coming from Arch where it takes like minutes. Yeah, which is part of the reason why I'm going to be putting Arch back on that laptop, because it is a pain to install packages. What's up? Do I play video games on Gen 2? I do not play video games on Gen 2. I don't think I could run. I don't think I could run a single game on Gen 2. I have a lot of stuff that is not enabled. But hypothetically, if you set it up correctly, you could do it. There are better distros for that though. What's up?
What would you say is like your big thing that you don't like about it? Like, you have like a pet peeve with it?
Okay, what is a big thing that I don't like about Linux? Like any pet peeves? Okay, sometimes I touched this briefly when I was talking about the Arch Wiki. Sometimes people can be a little bit insufferable and they're like, you should know this already. And some people have been using Windows their entire life and they don't know everything. So people here are not like that. People in RITSEC are not like that, which is very nice. But sometimes you'll see things on the internet and you're like, wow, what a douchebag.
Okay, that's
My bad. Alright, another question. What'd you say? Have I played around with SE Linux? No, I have not played around with SE Linux. I meant to put that on the Learn More slide. Any other questions? Okay.